And I think we're ready to get go. Rohit, are we set? Great. Good evening and a very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us for this very special session. Step in to step up, a woman's journey to identity, success, and power. I mean, I think it's all the things that we really, really want. So, in this really exciting expert session, Sai will help us understand the value of knowing our inner map as a way to navigate towards our success. She will also help us in knowing deeply about our psychological patterns that hold us back and how we can move beyond them. I am Sukirti Gupta. I am the co founder of Sipping Thoughts. Sipping Thoughts is a multimedia platform that was set up keeping in mind the tagline Real Women, Real Thoughts. We are a no judgment platform where we want to create a network of women for women. Sipping Thoughts reaches to over 2 million women on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and please do check out our website. But today we are all about Sai, and Sai, who's a psychotherapist, a transformational coach, and an author. Her leadership coaching is informed by transactional analysis, NLP, systemic constellations, psychodynamic approaches, body awareness work, and the ontology, which is the study of being. She has been involved in coaching leaders for the last 14 years and is in the field of personal transformation since 20 years. She has launched Step Up, which is India's first 100% online women's leadership course, which combines psychology with cutting edge leadership management learning. Her book, Step Up, please do get it. I also have a copy and I am just starting to read it, has been published in November last year, November 2019, and is already a bestseller on Amazon. Sai also hosts and leads Lead Powerful Lives Mindful, LPLM, a professional women's group on Facebook. She lives in Bangalore with her family and is an avid reader, a traveler, and takes her work life balance seriously. So, Sai, welcome to Sipping Thoughts. A pleasure to have you with us. And we're so excited to have this journey with you today. So, I turn it over to you, Sai.
Thank you so much, Sukirti. Really wonderful. It's always wonderful to be with a group of women. It's at the end of my day, and I'm so looking forward to be energized being with a group of women. So thank you once again. And let me just share my screen so that we can run through what we're going to do today for the next couple of minutes. All right. So yeah, so that's my book, which Sukirti was talking about. And just yeah, so we're going to talk about what limits us, what has shaped us psychologically, because I bring psychology, which is the core of my expertise, and I combine it with leadership practices. And so from that aspect of generative leadership, which is the framework that I teach, there is a small little model that I want to share with you, which allows us to understand this inner map that Sukirti was talking about. I want to quickly introduce you to 4 limiting patterns that I have noticed are so prevalent in my work with women, be they at mid-levels of their career or even senior women sometimes. And if possible, I would like to do a small little experiential mind-body technique with this group, just for you to begin to see the significance of a mind-body approach to transformation and supporting ourselves to change. And then, of course, there's going to be Q&A. So that's really that's where we're going now. So let me just start off by first asking you a question, which is, in taking bigger steps for yourself professionally, what is holding you back? If you can just put your responses into the chat, that would be great. Sukirti, I will just request that you read out, the chat messages as they come in, because that will just allow me to, stay with my presentation. So that's the question for you.
Yes, please do chat with us. Please do tell us, because that will help us also in terms of framing the presentation. So Damini says fear of failure. Okay. I said figuring out what is really the opportunity. Believe that I won't be able to do it is what Pragati is telling us. So Bhastri says fear of failure. I feel I'm not skilled enough.
Okay.
Uncertain, no family support, fear of not being able to do it, procrastination.
Okay.
I just read somewhere also, they said perfection is the new procrastination also.
Ah, okay. You're looking at it that way. All right.
Maybe women do multitasking.
Mhm. Okay. Lovely, lovely. So that's great. That yeah.
Sometimes the management doesn't allow it. I think sometimes, yeah. Gender bias.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's coming from Bhanumati.
Mm-hmm.
Mindset coming from Smita.
Very nice.
Shani says fear of not being able to maintain or continue. So maybe if we step on that path, how will we kind of, are we putting us into another trajectory?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. That's great. Thanks, Sukirti.
Then
So
the
thank
last one I'll
you.
take from Bindu, lack of self-esteem. So
Right.
that confidence.
Right. All right. Lovely. All right. So shall I move on?
Yes.
Okay. And so perhaps many of you are familiar with this iceberg model. Yeah, it really is, around when you think of an iceberg and you look at, what's on the top of the water, we typically see really a tiny portion, and we may make the mistake of thinking that that's the size of the iceberg. But we all know that what's actually below the water is a huge portion of the iceberg. And when you think of an iceberg, that below, that section that's below, is actually what provides momentum and pace and speed and direction to the iceberg. And so I love to use this model because, again, when we think of ourselves and we apply the iceberg model, then what's on the top are our observable behaviors, our hesitation, our lack of confidence, our self-doubt, and all of it is really what is observable on the top. And just like the iceberg, there is a whole lot underneath, the inner map, which is actually providing that lack of momentum, and all our difficulties is underneath. And very often we never look underneath at all. And I'd like to tell you the story of Reena. I talk about this leader even in my book. So Reena is a leader that I've been, coaching for quite a while now, and she is very, very successful. Is heading a 1,000-member team in a multinational, and this leader, had recent escalations because she seemed to have rubbed people the wrong way. People were talking about how distant she was, that she doesn't have a good way of giving feedback, etc. And when I met Reena, typically I start with the personal in my coaching work. And so I was really asking her, tell me more about yourself and your growing up years. And she told me that she was brought up in what she called a simple, God-fearing family who taught her that working hard was everything, staying on top of her game and being first at everything was the most significant. And so she says, that's really what I've been doing. And then I went on and asked her, tell me a little bit about your team members, some personal aspects of who you lead and your team. She was leading a team of 7, 8 very, very talented people. And she couldn't tell me too much about, them personally. And that was very interesting for me, that she didn't seem to know her team personally at all. And she said, I've been called in for my operational excellence. That's why I was made the head of this group. And I don't really go too much into the personal. And when I was talking to her, I noticed fairly stoic demeanor. Wasn't smiling too much. And it was really interesting for me to experience the persona of this leader, and to also hear her great focus on just the operational or the professional aspects of her role, and almost no connection, no empathy, no conversational abilities at all. And so it was very interesting. If I had to connect all that I was seeing with this model, then it was really clear to her and to me that perhaps we needed to go into the lower part of the iceberg, and for Reena to begin to understand what were those things that have shaped her, that she is so challenged in certain areas of how, of her identity and who she was as a leader, and not so challenged and, in some other areas. And so this brings us to what I often talk about, which is that we are all shaped. Yeah, and we are shaped by our personal history, of experiences, our upbringing, our family of origin, what kind of messaging existed at home, all of it shapes us, and we carry the shape, in and out of our workplace, in and out of our work relationships. And by the shape, I don't mean just physical shape. It includes that, because some of us, are even, our experiences even shape us physically. Some of us, and especially when I work with women leaders, I often work also with the body. And I find that they simply don't carry themselves with presence. They don't carry themselves with confidence. And you can just see in their body the lack of confidence. I can see in the body the lack of, the self-doubt. Yeah, so that's one kind of shape. The other is psychological shaping, our capacity to speak up, be assertive, deal with sticky conversations. All of it is part of our shaping that I'm talking about. And so I really think, as leaders in a leadership journey, very few of us pay attention to this personal history and the shaping of who we are. And in the generative leadership framework that I teach, we have a simple word which I call SELPH. It's just self. Yeah, and it talks about this whole idea of shaping. So when we think of Rena, there was a shaping in her somatic, or the body. Yeah, the stoicness of her jawline, the fact that her body was very, very stiff. Yeah, it wasn't sort of an easy body at all. A very rare smile. Her emotions were often one of seriousness, or there was emotion of irritation, because she would often think that, I don't know why I'm stuck with this team. Yeah, they're just not good enough. They're not perfect enough for me. They're not fast enough in what they deliver. So at an emotional level, she would often depict a certain irritation in her, and disgust for low levels of performance. Her language is nothing but what we say to ourselves, yeah, in our minds. We're often in a chatter. If you notice yourself, there is often a chatter. Even now, if you sit back, you will hear your own inner chatter. And so for Rena, her chatter was often, gosh, where am I stuck with this set of inefficient people, or I can't be very trusting of this person's performance. This person has often blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of inner chatter of distrust, a mistrust of her team. And practices is nothing but, our behaviors that we have practiced again and again and again. And history is, of course, our personal history. So I find in our own exploration of our inner map, it's important to know that there is an SELPH for each of us in the kind of difficulty that we're experiencing. So we're in a difficulty, or we're in a sticky conversation, struggling with another person. There is an SELPH for us there. And that exploration and reflection allows us to begin to see what is our own body experience, our own emotion in this moment, our own language in this moment about the situation. And what is, in our history that has informed this kind of language, emotion, and body experience. So that sort of reflection I find very, very sort of valuable for us to explore in our leadership. And so when we think of shape, we are shaped by personal experiences. Yeah, all our experiences through schooling, difficult teachers, difficult adults in our lives, cultural and social influences, because we grew up in a certain context of culture and social conditioning and messaging. And of course, we all, from our family of origin, be it, if we're brought up by mom, dad, or whoever were the adults in our life, there is such strong messaging around, who we are to be, gender-related messaging around what is allowed, what is not. And all of these experiences, are seeping into us, unknown to us, almost like an osmosis process. And it is influencing us in one way or the other unconsciously. So these messaging is sitting inside of us. So if you have to now just think of messages that have shaped you, yeah, from your own family of origin, messaging through schooling, perhaps even in the culture that you grew up in, or maybe you had a competitive experience, or through your growing years. What are some of the messages that you can identify that have shaped you? and your leadership. There could even be gender related messages. So I'd love for you to put some in the chat, so that we can just, read it out and get a sense of your own reflection right now of what do you think has gone into this shaping that I have been talking about. So let me just pause, and I'd love for some of you to put in whatever's coming up for you in terms of messaging that has shaped you. Some of us have had some really strong experiences, of a positive nature too, which has shaped us. The shaping includes both the positive as well as the limiting aspects. But some of us have also realized that, in our upbringing, our messages that are not necessarily very helpful to us today. So,
So,
Kirti,
Sai, I will start with mine and then I will start reading
sure,
out.
sure.
I mean, I think a lot of us, maybe, especially in that time, choose a career that will allow you to have a family and don't be too aggressive.
Right.
Vandana shares from a community culture.
Mhm.
Sween is sharing, she was brought up in an open environment and co educational school. I have been bold and confident. Rajiva is sharing, you cannot go for study tours because you're a girl. Bindu shares that societal norms.
Mhm.
Shalini, gender equality. Shani says, what others will think of you. Subhashri, sales is not the right role for women. Rashmi says never to answer back. Renu Mishra, yes, is saying we were given a lot of freedom in our family to help make choices. Alka says don't talk.
Mhm.
Being in competition with boys and leading, I also used to believe in equal opportunity. Rebecca says, no one ever said you can't do it because you're a girl, so I just did it. Renu, being more independent.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Akansha, career is more important for women, but secondary to the home.
Mhm.
Smita says family backing.
Wow. Wow, that's quite a list, and beautifully articulated by some of you, and so much of it is something that I just keep hearing again and again. And just imagine that, this is sitting inside of us unconsciously, shaping our problem solving, shaping when we put our hand up and say yes for something, shaping our second and third guessing that we do for ourselves, shaping our capacity to speak up and use our strengths. Unconsciously, all of this is sitting inside of us, and we've just called out one or two right now in these few minutes. Yeah, but can you imagine that there are hundreds of these messages actually, not just one or two? Yeah, because your experiences have informed you and shaped you in all kinds of known and unknown ways for ourselves. So thank you for that. I see some more messages.
Yes, so Sween shares being the fourth daughter. I had been given all love, care, and empowerment, so never felt bad being a girl. So a lot of positives also. Renu,
Yeah.
women were given a lot of respect. And Sween also said, I'm proud to have daughters. Yes, I also have two daughters, and I'm
Same
also
here. I have
very
two daughters.
excited.
In fact, my book is dedicated to my daughters. Yeah, because this work that all of us we are doing today is not just for us, it is also for our children, because it is so important to be setting a lot of these things straight and different, and those become the influences in their lives. So I too am a proud mother of two daughters. All right. So I want to go in now to look at how the shape that I'm talking about manifests as four very typical patterns that I see in women. Not to say that these aren't there in men, because I've often done this presentation with men, in the audience, with leaders who are men in the audience, and they say, okay, I can relate to some of these. And I say, sure. It's just that if 3 out of 10 men relate to this, 9 out of 10 women can relate to this. And so I tell them my book is about women. It's not as though I'm not talking about human beings. Psychology is about, human living and being. So yes, even men, will relate to this, but so many women relate to this. So the first pattern that I find is ever so glaring is the need to be pleasing. Yeah, and therefore, this then means that sometimes we don't speak up. Sometimes we have difficulty with being assertive. Sometimes, in being, because we have this need to be pleasing and we want to be assertive, we swing to the other side and actually come across so strong that people are not even able to listen to what we're saying. This also sometimes leads to us saying yes when we absolutely are clear inside of ourselves that we should be saying no. I find this also leads to a certain style of being, in meetings and with others, where we may be smiling too much. We have a body language which is sort of subservient and, sort of being overly nice. So all of these patterns I find really undermine our capacity to be seen and regarded as leaders, because this isn't a very valuable sort of trait in it. In itself, it's nice to be a pleasant person, but when we feel compelled to be pleasing, then it isn't regarded as something valuable, especially in the higher levels of, when we have to grow. So this is one pattern I find which is hugely prevalent. The next one is the need to get it right. Yeah, so this is the perfection trap. Yeah, and so we may be in a meeting, and there's innumerable times women have said, I want to say something, but I'm just getting it really right in my head. I want it to sound good, it needs to sound intelligent and smart and blah, blah, blah. And then somebody's already said it, and then you're sitting there and saying, gosh, why didn't I do that? Yeah, why didn't I say it? Now it's, someone else's, has taken the limelight, or it becomes their idea. And so this is one aspect. The other aspect is really often thinking that somewhere, I am not yet fully ready. I need to do something more. I need to read more. I need to sound more intelligent. All of this is part of this whole thing of needing to get it absolutely right. And so you will find, in situations where nobody knows anything, we're all playing, with an idea and get it off the ground. You will see, if there's a question asked, so many men will put up their hands. They don't know what the hell may be happening in that space. And yet they'll say, they're ready to go, they speak their mind. But often I will find women are waiting to get it right, and to really, say and do all the right things. Yeah. So I think this is another trap, if you may, that we fall into. So all these four patterns that I've put here, and there are many more patterns that I write about in my book. And Step Up, of course, is not just a book, it's also a course that I teach. And so there are many patterns that I speak there, but I put these four on the slide because these are like the topmost ones that I notice in my coaching work. The third one is I'm not smart enough, and another word to this would be I'm not good enough. And I think even in the earlier chat, the very first question I asked, there were some of us who actually said that, not good enough, low self-esteem. It all pertains to this. And so, very often I've had people thinking that, oh, I think only people who are in junior or mid-levels feel that. You'd be surprised to know how many people in the most senior levels of women leadership also experience this not good enough, right? And in some dimension of their life, they experience not good enough. And so this not good enough, I find, has such a big price, for women professionally. Because if there's an opportunity, we don't put up our hand. I have actively seen people recommending their colleagues and other people saying, somehow I think they have it, but I don't. Or, somewhere I've been working for 15, 20 years, but, I think I still need to do that one more course to be eligible for that level and that role. Yeah, so there is really that second guessing, not putting up the hand, taking a step back when there are opportunities, pointing the light in some other direction, and, needing to, believing that you need to read some more books and get that one more degree, to add next to your name and put that one more qualification. All of it has had these huge costs when there is a not good enough. So that's really this third pattern that I see such a lot of, yeah, that's sort of really doubt around, am I ready? Yeah, that's another phrase that I often hear under this third category of not good enough. And the fourth is simply, I just call it I can't, which is a degree of passivity, which is huge. And of course, I see this much more. I don't think I see this too much at the very senior levels, but I see it, in the more junior levels of, women in the workforce. So it's more like, I go to work, I have a job, and that's it. Yeah, I don't really have to think about expansion, growth, moving another dimension, or really thinking that I can do a set of things in this area, but I'm not good with numbers. Yeah, I've had people who head business units, and women who will say, I'm not good with P&L. I can't do this, I can't do something else. So there is a sense of passivity, and sometimes almost wanting to give away all of that to somebody else who's an expert, and really thinking that they can't engage their mind with those aspects. And so there's a really sort of an overall waiting game around learning. Yeah, they don't bring their agency and their capacity to engage with learning. Yeah, instead you see a certain, if I have to connect a body language, then I would say it's withdrawing. Yeah, taking steps back, saying, nay, nay, this is not for me, that is not for me. Yeah, so there's an overall language of I can't. So once again, I'm just going to stop and ask, on this group, can any of you relate to some of these? And do you think you're still dealing with one or two of these patterns? And can you see how they're holding you back? Again, I'd love to just see some of it on the chat.
Absolutely. I think no matter how much, I'll start with my story. I think I don't like conflict and this desire to be pleasing. We were always taught from a very young age, be the good girl. You
Yeah.
need to make sure that everybody is comfortable. Do chapati mangi to teen de do.
Right. Yeah.
So
I
I
tell you, Sukirti, when I do my workshops, I have this exercise where I say, moving away from good girl body language. Yeah. Yeah, I
yes.
actually think there is a good girl body language. And unlearning that, it becomes so significant.
I
Thanks.
would share what Bindu said. She says, truly said, the trap of the need to get it right is always so much for her. Shalini is also saying the same, the need to please. Rajiva is sharing as a habit from childhood, I need to get it right. The need to get it right is again echoed by Shani. Swedish saying, I need to get it right as being stamped as intelligent, smart, and knowledgeable. Bhavna sharing, eldest Bahu, daughter of the house, need to be pleasing. Alka shares, pleasing girl, another degree. Smita is telling us, I can't, I need to get it right. Pragati is sharing, hesitate to take up a new venture, feeling that can't do it without help. Vandana, do not like showdowns. Shalini, perfection in each thing I'd like to do. Subhashri sharing, I need to get it right, but I'm not smart enough, so I can't do it. Renu, I am also the need to get it right and to avoid conflict. And Shreen says, being a counselor and a psychologist, need to behave positive and energetic all the time with my friends, family, and team.
Ah, you know,
I
I
already, yes,
I'm
I also
feeling
feel.
weighed down just listening to this, and we carry this all the time, right? And so, but thank you so much, ladies, for pitching in like this. And so I can see that many of you identify this. So in my book and courses, I talk about this as like red signals. Huh? These are what stop us. Yeah, they arrest us from expanding our possibilities, from showing up with the identity in the world that we want, and of course from gaining more power. So I really see this as red signals in our life. And of course, just like how we have a green signal, which is just fantastic. It allows us to move and create possibilities and navigate and go ahead. Similarly, we also can have and bring in more of the green signals in our own life. And I think that when we are shaping our public identity, what is a public identity? It's nothing but how we land for others, how we are perceived by others, which I think in any leadership journey is very, very significant. And so I think our public identity is our business completely. Nobody's going to do that for us. It's really up to me. How is it that I'm going to shape that identity? How is it that I'm going to hold a certain mood of ambition for myself? How am I going to show up in the world with that kind of ambition? This is our business. And so I find the mood of ambition is such a significant mood for us as women, going into leadership, and those who are already leaders, we have to hold for ourselves in our life. So it's not a forced mood, it's a mood that we can have conviction in. So let me just share my screen again. And this mood of ambition, I find, becomes very valuable um, for us. And this mode of ambition can be taken on. Yeah, it's something that we learn to do. And a very good way that I suggest to people is to begin to combine mind body methods with adopting and having and holding this mood of ambition. And so I find it's very useful for us to pick, for example, if you found some of those four patterns yours, then I would say in on the screen, is there a statement here that you see as valuable? Because this is like a green, a green pattern, which is an antidote to the red pattern that holds you back. So I would say, if there is a notepad or your phones that you have with you, and if there are two or three of these statements that you really find valuable, I would ask you to just remember them or make a note of them, because I will lead you right now, yeah, through a mind body, a very simple method that I teach people and tell them, start your day with this. So just for a moment, I'm just going to pause and ask you, pick up one or two statements that you see as valuable for you, or even three statements that you see as valuable for yourself. Maybe you're already grounded in some of these statements, but you still have a little way to go, and you can still see value of some of these statements in your life. So I would say pick them up for yourself, just make a note. And once you've done that, I'm just going to ask you to sit comfortably wherever you are, on the sofa or a chair or whatever. Lean your back, get your feet flat on the ground, and close your eyes. Sukirti, feel free to let go of your role at this moment, so you can just receive and be in that, and let me take charge for the next 5 minutes. And so just get your feet flat on the ground. And just bring your focus to your breath, ladies. Yeah, just breathing in and breathing out. Drop your shoulders for a moment and just see how that feels. Allow your breath to drop into your belly and breathe from your belly. Sween, I see you stretching and moving. Beautiful. That's lovely. Yeah, so please do that. Just stretch for a moment and then just settle into this gentle observation of your breath, breathing in and breathing out, feeling the ground beneath your feet, breathing from your belly, breathing in, breathing out. Allowing yourself to just observe your thoughts in this moment, and notice your thoughts are coming and leaving like guests, they come and leave. You don't need to do anything. You're just observing them, noticing what they are about. And allowing yourself now to say in your mind, I'm a human and I have been shaped. I choose now to hold a mood of ambition for myself and my life. Take a deep breath. I'm going to allow myself to explore what I deeply care about and what I want to commit myself to. And in my journey of learning and growing, allow yourself now to say the 2 or 3 statements that you've picked up. Just allow yourself to say it. I can take small steps. I will seek support. I can say and do what I'd like to. I will be seen and heard. Allow yourself to just say the 2 or 3 statements to yourself. Take a deep breath. And once again, say to yourself, I allow myself to hold this mood of ambition, because all that I want is already inside of me. I commit to being a dignified learner. I am the hands that shape my life, a designer of my life and my work. Take another deep breath. And as you do that, once again, repeating the 3 statements in your mind that you've picked up, And as you do that now, pull your shoulders back. Allow your spine to be an inch taller. Pull up yourself. Just allowing yourself to feel the energy of the words that you're giving yourself. Allowing yourself to feel the mood of emotion and the mood of ambition and expansion in your spine. Take another deep breath. Allowing your body to experience the support of the chair that you're sitting in, the ground beneath your feet, and gently, slowly opening your eyes and putting into the chat any statement or phrase or emotion or word that comes to you right now. Because this practice that you've done, is a simple abundance practice. It's also a centering practice. I have it up on my website. It's free. It's available as a free download, a centering practice for our developing our presence as leaders. Yeah, very, very valuable practice to start your day with. So let me just see what is it that you put into the chat right now. Lovely. I see, I can, I will, peaceful, confident, beautiful. Feeling much better than we began the session, relaxed. Shani says, I'm good enough. Beautiful. Lovely. And so I find that this is a very valuable practice, that I suggest even, if I had to give a prescription, then I would say multiple times a day. But if not multiple times a day, at least once a day, and especially before difficult, sticky situations that you're going in, I find this kind of centering practice and practicing a mood of ambition for ourselves really supports a very gradual shift in our mental language as well as in our body language and our capacity to show up the way we want as leaders. So I'm just going to stop now and allow ourselves to just organically move into a Q&A, and Sukirti or whoever from the team is managing that. I give it back to you.
I would like to, ask the first question. This desire that we all have, especially as women, I find that we want to not have this conflict, not raise, and that actually makes us shrink. How do we develop that positive body language that shows confidence, yet still we don't feel that we need to get into the conflict?
See, first and foremost, Sukirti, I think when we give up this need to please, fully, right? Then we actually embrace the idea that conflict is everywhere and it is part and parcel of work life. I think the first is to begin to integrate that idea into our own inner map and inner language. Yeah, that conflict is normal. It happens everywhere where there are people. So I think the first is to give up that attachment that we have to no conflict. I think this is important. The second I find is this whole mind body practice, Sukirti, is very, very valuable because we have, the practice of avoiding conflict is not just in our mind, it's also in the body. That's why we shrink. That's why we make ourselves small. That's why we actually take a psychologically step back. That's why we quell the voice and, our voice isn't heard. So I find this practice of actually saying, it's okay for me to say what I want. Yeah, I can be direct and respectful at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive qualities. Yeah, so I find all of this, I can do this. I can speak my mind. I can be direct and respectful. For example, is a very valuable statement that I started practicing years ago when I had to be on this journey of my own. So I think these kind of practices, even before we go into sticky situations, becomes very, very valuable. And the other aspects, Sukirti, of really integrating our need and attachment to not have conflict, and making that a bad thing. On the other hand, if you look at guys and you look at how they are in meetings, they'll be arguing, they'll be screaming and shouting, and in 5 minutes they're sharing a fag, or they are backslapping. So it's really this ability to say and to play. Yeah, I think I find women need to embrace that much more.
Fantastic. Sween, go ahead. Please ask your question. Sween,
Can't hear you, Sween.
Surabhi, go ahead. I've asked Sween to unmute. Oh, she's ready. Go ahead, Sween.
Thank
Question. I'm really feeling so good. So we are already on the right tracks. So carry forward, please.
Surabhi, go ahead. Surabhi actually had shared. Surabhi? Okay, I will ask it. She promised herself that she would bring out her first research paper in 1.5 years. She's been procrastinating till now. How do we get out of this procrastination?
Yeah, hi Sailaja. I think I've been able to unmute and say.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Thank you, Surabhi.
Thank you so much. I am just so glad listening to you. So you're helping me accelerate what I had been thinking.
Yes.
Yes, I exactly had the same feeling that probably I'm not good enough. I can't sit and do this. I don't want to do it. But I think, yes, I've reached that space where I say, yes, I want to. And I've given myself that time frame. So I'm really hoping it happens very soon.
Lovely, Surabhi. And I have to tell you, in the context of what you brought up, because it's about publishing. I'm a first-time author. Yeah, my book I have never written before. Yeah, and so I really think that this I can do it, and I will do it. And what is the worst that can happen? I mean, this was all languaging that I had to teach myself, and then I did a few more things, Surabhi, and I'm just going to sort of offer that up there for you to see if something's useful. I find that I began telling myself, what is the smallest step that I can take? So I'm not going to think about a book. Yeah. I'm going to think of 5 pages that just 5 pages that I will write. The second thing that I did was I began thinking of my writing as a conversation, Surabhi. And so when I got stuck, I enlisted another person and told them, you know what? I want to just talk about my chapter to you. And as we talked, she would make notes. Sometimes I would just take my phone and record, and that shaped an entire chapter. Yeah, so writing can be seen as a conversation, and it is a conversation between me and a reader when it becomes a book. But even before it becomes that, it can be just a conversation with you and another person who's supporting your process. So I just find, small steps, not scaring ourselves with something big, huge, fat, and thinking about it as designing through conversations. I find that very valuable, especially in writing. Okay.
Thank you so much, Selja. Just one more question, quick one, Sukirti. I won't take too much.
Go ahead, Surabhi.
Please tell me. I am in this dilemma at this moment that my kids are in the growing up phase. I should probably be giving them much more time, and I want to do so many new things, but I'm not taking them on out of that fear and guilt. Is this only a woman guilt, or how does it work, and how can I get over it?
I definitely think it's a woman guilt, or more precisely a mother guilt, which I think, I have not seen too many fathers and men who speak like this. So I do think it's a very, very, woman thing. I just find that for me, like I'm also a mother. I also have now, of course, they're 20 and 15, quite big. But for in the earlier years, I did have this question. And I really find that I had to ask myself, what is it that I really, really care about?
I'm looking good, right?
And what is it that I absolutely want to dedicate my life, my professional work time to? And then I found when I answered that question that a lot of the other things that I was involved in, I was involved in 100,000 activities. I withdrew from a whole lot of things and decided to repurpose my energy towards those 2 or 3 things that were really important. So it does mean, prioritizing. It does mean asking those tough questions, pulling out of things that you may be otherwise, sort of giving your time to. And I found that particularly helpful. Yeah, having a more narrowed down focus and making time for that, because then that allowed me also time to be the kind of mother that I wanted to be. So I think that's what I did.
So I'll take a question from Facebook and then I will go to Alka. So
Sure.
Ulka is asking, relationships also make women disturbed. Please guide how to manage relationships and all.
Yeah, and I guess what you mean there is conflict in relationships. I find that women have this way of melting into their relationships. Yeah, and I call that giving more than you can afford to. Yeah, that's really what how I would phrase it: giving more than you can afford to. So I would really see, look at places where you may be doing that, melting into those relationships, getting enmeshed where you don't know anymore what your needs are, and women often tend to do that. I would really re-examine, Ulka, right? Which are those relationships where that's happening? And I think women need to learn some healthy boundary keeping, and so that we are, not so enmeshed in those relationships. And I find, Alka, that really helps us. Those boundaries really help us have a sense of, our own needs and what we need to attend to. Otherwise, any small thing that happens in any of those relationships can really take us down south. Our mood is gone, our self-esteem is gone, and we can't afford that to happen. So I think some kind of boundaries is important. I also tell people, as a psychologist, some of us have learned very, very poor boundaries, and then we need to teach ourselves boundaries through whatever way. Sometimes books help, sometimes going through personal development courses help, sometimes counseling helps, some of us do it through good coaching. Yeah, so any kind of support that you can get for yourself would be very, very valuable, because some of these patterns are very, very deep rooted, and they don't just go just by being aware of it. Some of us need a little more support than that. So I would say, if that's the kind of person you are, then please seek that support.
Alka, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thanks, Sukriti. Okay, my question is basically there is something that I have been wanting to do for the last 25 years.
Mhm.
And finally, in lockdown, I've had the courage to.
Alka, we lost your voice. Alka, I'm asking you to unmute. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I have. Okay,
Sorry.
there is something. Sukriti, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So there's something that I have been wanting to do for the last 25 years, and that's a huge investment of time, independence, and money that is required of it. So I've just not done it. I've just procrastinated over it. And now finally, during the lockdown, I've had 5 months to think, and I'm going ahead with the venture. And now again, I'm beginning to doubt myself. So how does one get rid of this self-doubt? I mean, I know I am perfect for it. I've prepared for 25 years, you know, and still I'm doubting. And I've got the professional expertise, the money, everything. I have everything to do it. But I'm still doubting.
Yeah.
How?
I find that, so once again, you see, this is exactly like what I said. This is such a deeply held unconscious pattern that it just comes up, even though we have a plan and we've made a choice and everything, right? This whole second guessing happens. So I really find that on a daily basis, Alka, yeah, the simple practice that we just did together, yeah, of saying, I can do this and I will do this, and I am good enough, and these are the strengths that I have, and I'm standing on the ground of my strengths, and all that I need is within me, and it doesn't mean I will not make mistakes. So we just practiced with 3 sentences. I would ask you to write 10. Right, write 10 and put it up on your fridge where you'll see it every day. Put it up on your mirror where, when you brush your teeth, that's what those 10 sentences are, what you start with. Take a few moments to close your eyes, center yourself in this space, and then start your day, Alka. It's a bit like prayer, for those of us who have any kind of such spiritual practice. I find these abundance mantras, on my course Step Up, I call them abundance mantras, and even in my book, right, these abundance mantras are like prayer. It is not that aaj kar liya and it's now in me. No, 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 no. Yeah, you brush your teeth every day, right? You don't say, I did it. No, this is exactly like that. It's no different. So I find this kind of practice is what changes the narrative, because a personal narrative, Alka, is built over years and years and years. Yeah, so just because now lockdown has happened and you made a choice, it's not like, it's not like a pill that you swallow. No, it doesn't work like that. So this unlearning of the personal narrative, only you can do. We have full editing rights to our story. Yeah, so if you've written the not good enough story, you are the only one, Alka, who will write I can and I will do it story. You're the only one who has those editing rights. And that editing rights you have to exercise every single day as you start your day, Alka. That's what allows you. It doesn't mean that the self doubt goes away. When I was writing Step Up, it took me, a year and a half to, get it out. I remember many times asking myself, what am I doing writing? Really? I mean, yeah. And yet I said, no, I had to do exactly what I'm saying, I'm asking you to do. Right. And I went and created Step Up, the course, the online course. Believe me, Alka, I had not been on a webinar, till 3 years ago, even once. Yeah, and there I was sitting and making a 4-month online course and was asking myself, what kind of person does this? And then I said, you know what? I'm a dignified beginner. Yeah, I have the right to call myself a dignified beginner, and a dignified beginner starts somewhere. This is where I'm starting, right? And I will get help and I will design with other people and I will do a whole lot of green abundance things that I need for myself. But it is a daily thing, Alka, like prayer. Yeah, so I would say give that to yourself, every day. And I'm guessing your venture is going to fly.
So well said. So well said. Damini, you had a question. Go ahead, Damini.
Yeah, hi. So my question was ki at times, the idea of security and safety holds us back
Yeah.
from trying out new things. And, the reason why we don't want to step out of the box or take up new challenges is somewhere we know that maybe that's not a safe option. And we all love, those safety nets. So how to deal with that? And especially when you are at a certain age. So, where you have responsibilities as well. So how to deal with that?
Great question, Damini. I find that in order for us to attend to our safety and security needs, we need to have some very important conversations in our lives. Yeah, because there are people's lives that are connected to us. We're not sitting on the moon. We are here. We live in a context of a system. I find those conversations become so important. Whether it's conversations with our kids, conversations with our partners, conversations with those who may be funding us. Yeah, I think conversations of the nature that talk about risk, that talk about what we deeply care about, that talks about why we want to follow this dream. I think the quality of those conversations needs to be full and rich, and they need to happen. Yeah, many times we don't have those conversations. We're just sitting in our mind with those dreams and aspirations and getting scared and psyching ourselves. So I find externalizing our concerns, externalizing and articulating what we deeply care about, what aspiration and dream we have with others who are, you could call stakeholders in our life or our work. I find those conversations are very, very important. Number one. Yeah, the other place that I often tell women is to lean into a sisterhood of some kind. Yeah, there are other women who have done what you have done, who've walked that path before you. Are you in touch with them? And can they be a safety net for you? Because I find we all need that safety and belonging net, right? And I find leaning into that and creating that safety net, some of us are not good at doing that. We don't have it. And so I would say create that, invest and create that belonging net, that safety net, that place where you can go and get help or just let your hair down or, spew and be a witch for 10 minutes if you have to. Yeah, we all need that space. So I think when we can do these two things, I find our safety and belonging needs, are often sort of dealt with, and then we feel more ready to take that leap. And sometimes these conversations show up that maybe it isn't a great time to take that leap because life is like that, yeah, because of family situations or many other life circumstances. It isn't always the right time, and those conversations throw light on that, and then we know that okay, maybe I will do it, another time. So I find allow yourself to make these choices conversationally rather than do it all solo in your head. So I think that would be my suggestion.
So, Sai, before we end, I really want to ask you this question because these 10 sentences every day, this affirmations, is it really so simple to really improve your body language and get that confidence?
I'd
I mean,
say
you're a psychologist, you're a leadership trainer, but it
so.
sounds very simple.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't like these simple things, no? Sometimes we really second guess and wonder if these simple things can work. No, I wouldn't say that this is the key to it, Sukirti. This is a practice. It's one of those practices that get us going. But I think what's really important, I find, is for those of us who are have a burning desire but are stopping ourselves, is really to do this practice, but to also do the rest of the work, which is get your plan together, get a group of people to support you, get a coach or a mentor. I think there are many steps that are part of leadership success, Sukirti. But I do think that changing the narrative, this simple practice, I have found, as a psychologist, to be very, very valuable, because we become what we practice, Sukirti. We become what we are constantly saying in our mind. So it is very, very powerful for us to change our language, to change our mood, to change how our body feels, because mood is held not just in our mind, it's also in our body. If I say hello, good to see you, and if I say, hey, good to see you, this is very, very different, because our voice and every aspect of ourselves begins to shift. So, yes, it's simple, but I think it's also very powerful.
And of course, I'm going to ask you this question. You know me. How long does it take if you do this and you do it actually quite sincerely?
I
3
really
months? Is it
find
6 months? Is it 12 months?
that's such a that's a tough question, honestly, because I don't know how to answer it, because it really depends on how deeply held some of these patterns are, Sukirti. Some of us have 200 patterns that we have to change. Some of us have 15 or 10, right? So how deeply held, how significant those experiences of, limiting experiences were in our life is different for every human being. So therefore, I don't have a straight answer. But what I have noticed is that when people practice this day in and day out, they begin to see within even a couple of weeks, yeah, that something has shifted for them. This is what people have reported back, on the courses, when they are with me, that in a couple of weeks they can begin to see it. But I do think this is a daily practice. This is not a, I will visit when I want kind of thing.
Fantastic. So I think we're hearing some great feedback. Just what I needed to get out of my comfort zone and prioritize positive self talk as miracles. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sipping Thoughts. But before we leave for today, any last tip?
I think the biggest tip that I would that I would tell people is, I find in my work with women that aspiration is in itself, there's a deficit. So I would say dig deep within you, yeah, and find that thing that you want to commit yourself. And the moment you find that, you will be on a path. Yeah, so I think that's really what I would ask each one of you to do. Yeah, delve deep into yourself and find out that which really excites you and what you really deeply care about. And you will find that it begins to energize you, and the I can and the I will come to you much more easier.
Well, thank you. Thank you for such an energizing session. I think you've left us invigorated. I think a lot of us are ready to go and take charge. So, with that, we wish you all a very, very good evening and have a great night. And thank you, Sai, for being with us. I
Thank you.
have shared all her links. This video will be available on Facebook. We will also put all of her links there also. And the book is Step Up. I have ordered mine. So, I will start reading it too. It's still in the plastic, but I am planning to start reading it. But thank you, Sai, for being with
Thank
us.
you, Sukirti, for having me. Thank you, ladies. It's been wonderful being here. Yeah, thanks again for your
Good night.
participation. Bye bye.